This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post coming to you from Nairobi, Kenya, from the Fort Hall School of Government. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you may have missed this morning, but we also take a look at some of the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 26th of May, 2022, and I am 2M.
I am Serbia.
And I am 2J. Wow, 2M the rapping. And in case you missed today's headlines, here they are. In the Daily Nation, uproar over CJ's polls gag order. In the Standard, Ruto's radical land plan jolts Raila's camp. In the Star, campaign cash fight disrupts Kenya Kwanza. And in the People Daily, polls, 16 beat IEBC deadline. Lots of long headlines today. I'll just get straight to it.
Right.
In 2004, Venezuela was going through a unique moment in its history. The country was run by Hugo Chavez, a former coup plotter. He became president in 1999 after promising to clean up decades of corruption and to redistribute the country's oil wealth amongst the poor. But Chavez didn't like to talk in detail about his future economic plans.
Yes.
He was a savvy political speaker, not a technocrat or an economist.
Yes.
He knew that voters elect politicians who promise economic miracles and hand out as much money as possible. He was convinced that the state could run companies better than the private sector. So he nationalized dozens of companies in every industry. The problem was that he ended up turning them into empty, useless shells. Under Chavez, oil, agriculture, finance, telecommunications, transport, power, and tourism were all nationalized and put under the state. The government then seized 20% of agricultural land, and they would repossess it back if farmers did not continue their political support for Chavez. And guess what happened? Agricultural productivity dropped sharply. Maize production fell by 40%, rice by 39%, sugar 36%, and coffee by 47%. Venezuela now imports 80% of its food, and the people are reliant on inadequate government handouts.
Oh no.
In fact, the country stopped recording inflation because it is well past 4,000%. And as of 2018, 75% of private businesses in Venezuela have ceased to operate. 75%. So why am I telling you this story? Fellow Kenyans, this is what will become of Kenya under William Ruto and Rigathi Gachagua.
Fact.
If we are not careful, UDA is going to pick apart the Kenyan economy piece by piece until there is nothing left. And I'm not making this up.
Yes.
They have told us this themselves. This week, Rigathi told us that he will dissolve monopolies like KQ and Safaricom and give the monies out to mamambogas. Then, as the Standard tells us today, Ruto's answer to the land question is compulsory acquisition to repossess private land and give it away. And this is setting a dangerous precedent. What Ruto and Rigathi are telling us is very simple. If you are a private business that makes too much money, you are a threat to the state. If you own a piece of land, you risk having it seized by the state. Today, it's Safaricom. Tomorrow, it will be you. Today, it is land in the coast. Tomorrow, it is your shamba up country. Now, here's the thing about nationalization. Generally, it is not good for country.
Yes.
It often happens when governments want control of a profitable industry in order to create bottomless income for themselves.
Yes.
The French kings used to say, "L'État, c'est moi,"
Yes.
meaning I am the state or the state is me. Post-election, if William Ruto wins, will this be his style of leadership? Remember, he told us that he owns 400,000 shares in Safaricom.
Yes.
So if Safaricom becomes a government parastatal and he is the state,
Yes.
his 400,000 shares become 100% of a 1 trillion shilling company.
My goodness.
This week, I've actually concluded
Yes.
that William Ruto and Rigathi Gachagua
Yes.
are meant for each other.
Oh, yes.
Best friends.
Yes.
Bromance. And they are using this simple maxim.
Yes.
The best strategy is the obvious strategy. They have told us what they are coming for, and we're just watching them with our mouths open.
No, 2J. Part of Hugo Chavez's best, ways of
His strategy.
of his strategy was behaving like Bona Asifiwe. There's no single church he did not go to.
Right.
He went to evangelicals, and his way through them was telling them, I'm with God, and I'm with God, everyone is with God. Let me tell you, you watch William Ruto, if people are performing miracles in Karen, turning black water into clear water, and then some stupid fellows believe them, on
Where
the
we
way,
headed?
absolutely.
Well, on to prodigal sons and whatnot. This week, 45 musketeers from Wiper voted for Kalonzo to come back to Azimio. According to his chief misleader Maanzo, Kalonzo suddenly had an epiphany and realized Kenya is bigger than himself and decided to come back for the sake of Kenyans.
Yes.
However, I am of the opinion that we should not board, and the Kambas should once and for all uproot the watermelon. Kalonzo is derailing not only the progress of the Kambas, but other Kenyans. For instance, did Sunkuli deserve to have his political ambition derailed by a confused senior advocate? Talk of Kupangwa. Even as Kalonzo and his handlers eat humble pie, it is not lost on us that they are doing so while discrediting Baba's popularity and misinforming the public. One nondescript Kambani MP was the other day just peddling falsehoods on national television. He told us that Baba's popularity fell from 42% to 39% after Kalonzo bolted out of Azimio and after Baba picked Karua as his running mate. Not only that, he went further and claimed that without Kalonzo, Baba will not get the threshold of 50+1 votes. But let's interrogate these claims. According to Kalonzo's camp, the assumption is that Kalonzo is the determining factor. But I beg to differ. If he wasn't selected by the Presidential Interviewing Committee, then he wasn't that much of a determining factor. Kalonzo seems to suffer from a cognitive bias called focalism, the tendency to give too much weight to one particular piece of information while neglecting other important considerations when making decisions.
Right.
This therefore leads to making inaccurate judgments.
Yes.
Kalonzo has focused too much on the debt he's apparently owed by Raila.
Yeah.
He assumes that this is what entitles him to the DP position. However, after the presidential interviewing panel assessed his other attributes, including his background, experience, and strength of numbers, they determined Mother was the best candidate for the position.
Oh, yes.
Again, Kalonzo is still not a determining factor because Baba might not need him after all to cross the 50%+1 threshold. Mother can replace Kalonzo's 1.5 million votes. Let me explain. With a projected voter turnout of about 15.7 million votes, 50%+1 will equal to 7.8 million votes.
Yeah.
We know that without Gema, Raila has 5.6 million votes. If we add Kalonzo's 1.5 million to Raila's 5.6 million, Raila arrives at 7.1 million. But Mother can do better. She will be the one to get Baba to the 50%+1 threshold. And this is how. In order for Raila to hit 7.8 million votes, let's assume without Kalonzo, he will need 2.2 million Gema votes. Mother Karua will provide these votes by targeting the Gema conservatives.
Right.
This group is comprised of voters aged 40 years and above in Gema.
Yeah.
There are about 2.5 million Gema conservatives out of the 4.6 million voters. And they are likely to vote for a Karua ticket. Why? The recent polls show that the moment Baba announced Karua as his running mate, support for Baba by those over 35 years old jumped from 35% to 43% in just a week. And the number of undecided voters in that category fell by 5%. Meanwhile, support for Ruto fell from 39% to 35%. These conservative Gema voters are therefore the silent majority. They are important to the 2022 election because they don't express their opinions publicly. Yes, hence we might underestimate their influence.
Right.
If this category votes for Raila because of Mother, Raila will have 8 million votes, passing the 50%+1 threshold with a comfortable 200,000 votes margin. And as Mother continues spreading the gospel, the only question is how many more of these conservatives will see the light. We can only wait and see.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Not only are they quiet about their views, I think they're also the most consistent to come out and vote.
Oh, absolutely.
Year after year.
Absolutely. Now, at the Fort Hall School of Government, it's our business to study elections and give precise predictions of these elections. We have studied 6 of Kenya's elections over a period of 30 years.
Yes.
And it's on the basis of this that we have accurately predicted the outcome of each of the 6 elections. It is therefore upon this basis, that we will tell you 2 things we have predicted about the August election. 1, if everything is kept constant, voter turnout will be 71%. Excuse me. This means that out of a voter register of 22 million people, 15.6 million people will vote. The second prediction we want to make is, should everything not remain constant, voter turnout will be less than 50%. The question then becomes, what are the chances of things not remaining constant? Consider our thoughts. Unlike any other election in Kenya's history, we will have the highest number of political aspirants. The August election will have 43 presidential candidates, over 7,000 independent candidates, and over 15,000 candidates sponsored by various parties. This means that we will have 5 times more candidates at presidential level than we had in 2017. We will have more than double the number of independent candidates that vied for various political seats in 2017. We will have more political parties sponsoring candidates than they did in 2017. Question then becomes, if we have more aspirants than 2017, what will happen? If our first prediction is right, that voter turnout will be 71%, then it means in the 40,000 plus polling stations, only 382 voters per polling stations will vote. This means that each voter is allowed only 3.7 minutes if polls were to open at 12:01 a.m. August 9th and close at midnight on the same day. A 24-hour voting period, that's it. But because it is custom, or it is a custom that every polling day open at 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., which is about 12 hours, each voter can only use 1.8 minutes at the voting booth. Is this doable? Absolutely zero.
Possible.
If it took an average of 5 minutes per voter to vote in 2017, it may take an average of 9 minutes per voter in August. Should it take an average of 9 minutes to vote in each of the 40,000 polling stations, then only 288 voters will be able to vote in each polling station. This will translate to a total of 11.7 million voters able to vote on voting day. This is only 50% of the 22 million registered voters. Take note, herein we are assuming that every process before voting will be smooth. In 2013 and 2017, the IEBC's Kenya Integrated Election Management System, KENYANS, failed and IEBC reverted to the manual system. Should the electronic voter identification system fail, IEBC will revert to the manual systems to identify voters. And you can be sure that from the 9 minutes it will take you to vote, it will take an average of 6 minutes to identify voters. This will take it to a total of 15 minutes per voter to vote.
Oh my goodness.
It will definitely drive voter turnout to way below 50%. And because the Constitution states that a presidential election and a general election will happen on the 2nd Tuesday of August every 5 years, IEBC will not extend voting time. We are actually staring at a voter turnout of 35%.
Oh my gosh.
Take that to the bank. And what a shame it would be for William Ruto. Imagine campaigning for 4 years only to get 35% of voter turnout in central Kenya.
A shame.
Anyway, like we've always told you, Nikita Khrushchev said it. It's not the people that vote that count. It's the people that count the vote that matter. You take it or you leave it.
You're basically describing to us a mini exam
Yes.
that half the students will be told, sorry, you can't sit.
Absolutely. If you had 8 presidential candidates in 2017, and now you have 43, I mean, that's more than 5 times.
That's a whole mess.
It's 5 pages
of turning the
pamphlet,
page, right?
of a
And
ballot
then you
paper.
start thinking about William Ruto, and if it's in alphabetical order,
Yes.
he's on the last page.
He's on the last
Raila
page.
Odinga, he's somewhere in the middle. It's
Yeah.
a whole mess.
Crazy.
All right, so on that note, we have a 3-part criteria that we use to assess the headlines by. We ask ourselves, is the headline topical or speculative, repetitive or groundbreaking, and finally, thoughtful or just plain lazy? Guys, I would like to suggest that we don't even look at the headlines today.
All of them?
We toss them all immediately. They were all far too lengthy and not interesting to read.
Absolutely. The cartoons are rubbish as well.
Cartoons, again, they are rubbish. Gado, where are you? So on that note, we have no winning headline and no winning cartoon. But since we are talking about elections, I'd like to leave you a quote from The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli. It's a bit of a long one.
Fantastic.
He says that if you want to sustain a reputation for generosity, you have to be ostentatiously lavish.
Yes.
And a prince acting in that fashion will soon squander all of his resources, only to be forced in the end, if he wants to maintain this reputation of being lavish and generous, to lay excessive burdens on who? The people.
Oh, ho, ho, ho.
Think about that one.
Love it.
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also find us on your TV screens. We're on Pang Free to Air, GoTV, and Star Times. Have a lovely evening, and we will see you tomorrow.